Ambassador Han approached the enormous metal doors of the council chambers, staring at his warped reflection.
The space station hummed quietly around him, filled with representatives from across the galaxy. His aide June stood behind him, fidgeting with his collar in the artificial gravity. "You seem troubled, Ambassador," June whispered.
Han nodded slightly. "Something about this doesn't feel right. All these species, so different, yet following the same protocol."
The avian protocol officer stood tall near the entrance, its blue-black feathers gleaming under the lights.
Its sharp eyes tracked every diplomat passing through security.
When Han and June reached the checkpoint, the bird-like alien raised a clawed hand.
"Weapons," it demanded, voice clicking through its translator. "You must present your ceremonial weapons for scanning." Han looked confused. "Excuse me?" "Your ceremonial weapons," the protocol officer repeated, pointing at the ornate knife hanging from a nearby diplomat's belt. "All representatives must carry their species' traditional weapon when entering council chambers." Han watched as various aliens filed past. A gelatinous being had metal spikes embedded in its transparent flesh.
A six-limbed mammalian carried an energy staff.
2 insectoid diplomats wore gloves with retractable poison barbs. "There must be some mistake," Han said. "We weren't informed of this requirement."
The officer's head tilted sharply.
"It is the oldest tradition of the Council. 6,000 cycles. No exceptions."
June leaned forward.
"Ambassador, we brought nothing like that." Han straightened his back. "Earth has no single ceremonial weapon.
In fact, our diplomatic protocols specifically forbid weapons during peace negotiations." The avian's feathers puffed outward in what Han guessed was surprise or irritation.
"Impossible.
Every species carries weapons.
It is the foundation of council trust, showing one's capacity for harm while choosing restraint." "Not humans," Han said firmly. "We come unarmed precisely to show trust." The protocol officer made a sharp whistling sound that the translator didn't convert.
2 security guards approached, massive beings with thick scales and multiple eyes.
"This requires consultation," the officer declared. For 3 hours, Han and June waited in a small antechamber while messengers came and went.
Other diplomats passed by, stealing curious glances at the humans. Han could hear heated discussions in alien languages. Finally, a tall, slender being with pale skin and 6 fingers on each hand entered. The silver insignia on its chest marked it as a council elder.
"Ambassador Han," it said in a surprisingly melodic voice. "I am Elder Rin. This situation is unprecedented." "I understand," Han replied. "But we cannot compromise on this point. Humans enter diplomatic chambers without weapons, or we do not enter at all."
Elder Rin studied him carefully. "In 6,000 cycles, no exception has ever been granted to the weapons protocol." "Then perhaps it's time," Han suggested. After more discussion, Elder Rin nodded slowly.
"The council has voted. You may enter unarmed, but only because we believe humans lack the biological advantages that necessitated the protocol in the first place." Han kept his face neutral, hiding his satisfaction at this small victory.
When he finally passed through the scanner without a weapon, the chamber fell unusually quiet.
Hundreds of alien eyes tracked his movement across the polished floor. Han could feel the tension, the curiosity, the judgment.
A reptilian diplomat with emerald scales leaned toward its companion. "Why are they different?" it hissed, not realizing human hearing was sharper than they assumed. "Perhaps they are too primitive to be trusted with weapons," replied the other, a being with 4 eyes and metallic skin.
"Their planet is young.
They only achieved spaceflight recently."
Han pretended not to hear as he took his seat at the enormous circular table. He caught June's eye and gave a slight smile. If only they knew. Earth's history was written in blood and warfare. Humans had perfected killing long before they perfected peace.
They didn't need ceremonial weapons because their entire evolution had made them living weapons, adaptable, enduring, capable of violence and mercy in equal measure. "The Council recognizes Earth," announced the chair being from the center platform.
Han stood, unarmed but not defenseless. Thank you. Humanity is honored to join this gathering of worlds.
As he began his prepared speech, Han noticed many diplomats still staring at his empty hands. They saw weakness where there was strength. They assumed vulnerability where there was calculated restraint.
The humans would keep their secret for now. Let the galaxy believe they were harmless.
The truth would emerge soon enough. Junior diplomat Key stood by the refreshment table, sipping a blue drink that tasted like mint and seawater. The reception hall glittered with the light of 3 small suns shining through the massive dome ceiling. 3 months had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council on a trial basis, and Key was still learning the complex web of alien customs.
These functions are exhausting, whispered Sue, another human diplomat.
I can never remember which species considers eye contact respectful and which finds it threatening.
Key smiled. At least the food has improved since we arrived. They finally stopped serving us the methane-based appetizers meant for the Doral delegation. Around them, representatives from 50 worlds mingled in their formal attire.
Some floated, others crawled, many walked on various numbers of limbs. The humans had grown somewhat accustomed to the diversity, but still found themselves staring occasionally.
Key's attention drifted to Ambassador Tour, the Vargasian representative.
The tall, gray-skinned diplomat wore what looked like intricately woven metal bands around both wrists.
The metal caught the light, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the floor.
That's beautiful, Key murmured. I've never seen craftsmanship like that.
Before Sue could stop her, Key crossed the room.
Cultural exchange was part of her job, after all. The diplomatic handbook encouraged showing interest in other species' art and fashion.
Ambassador Tour, Key greeted with a small bow. I couldn't help admiring your bracelet. The metalwork is extraordinary. Tour turned, 7 fingers clasping a glass of bubbling liquid. Thank you, human Key.
Key gestured toward the metal band.
May I look closer?
The patterns seemed to shift in the light. Tour hesitated but extended an arm. Key leaned in, admiring the swirling designs. Without thinking, she reached out and touched the cool metal surface.
The room went silent. Conversation stopped mid-sentence.
Several diplomats gasped.
Key knew immediately she had made a mistake.
The bracelet unfolded slightly at her touch, revealing a razor-sharp edge.
Not jewelry, a weapon.
I'm so sorry, Key said, stepping back quickly.
I didn't realize.
But something strange had happened. Where her fingers had touched the blade, the silvery metal had turned a dull copper color. The discoloration spread slowly across the surface.
Ambassador Tour raised the blade, eyes widening in alarm. What did you do, human? The translator couldn't quite capture the mixture of shock and accusation in the Vargasian's voice. Nothing.
I just touched it, Key protested, heart racing. Security guards converged from all directions, some mechanical, some organic, all armed.
2 council peacekeepers in blue uniforms took positions on either side of Key.
You must come with us, one said firmly. This weapon has been in my family for 12 generations, Tour was saying to a council elder. The metal comes from our sacred mountains.
It cannot be damaged by any known substance.
Key found herself escorted through service corridors and into a sterile white room that looked like a laboratory.
Medical equipment lined the walls.
Her fingerprints were taken, her hands scanned under various lights and devices. Dr. J, the human medical officer assigned to the Earth delegation, entered after an hour.
His face showed concern. What's happening? Key asked. Am I under arrest? Not exactly, Dr. J said, checking readings on a tablet.
But you've caused quite a stir.
That weapon Ambassador Tour carries is made from an alloy considered indestructible.
Yet somehow, your touch changed its molecular structure.
How is that possible?
Apparently, compounds in human skin secretions, mainly acids and salts in our sweat, react with that particular alloy, he explained.
The reaction neutralizes some properties of the metal. Essentially, you made it less effective as a weapon. Key stared at her hands. By accident.
Yes, But now they're scanning all humans on the station, Dr. J said.
Ambassador Han is in emergency meetings. The council scientists are requesting blood samples.
They're afraid of us, Key realized.
Dr. J nodded slowly. They're wondering what else about us they don't understand.
Many council species have evolved sophisticated defense mechanisms, toxins, exoskeletons, natural weapons.
We came across as harmless by comparison.
Until I touched that blade, Key said quietly. Until you revealed that even our sweat can disable their weapons, Dr. J corrected.
The council operates on balanced power. Every species knowing the other's capabilities. We've accidentally upset that balance. Key looked through the observation window where several alien scientists were reviewing data. What happens now?
Now, Dr. J said, we find out if they see us as a curiosity or a threat. The Grand Council chamber gleamed under the soft blue lights. Today marked the historic unification vote, when 17 previously warring systems would officially join the Galactic Alliance. 500 delegates filled the tiered seats, their varied bodies creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. Ambassador Han stood at the central podium, his voice steady as he delivered Earth's supporting statement. After the weapon-touching incident with junior diplomat Key 6 weeks earlier, the human delegation walked on eggshells.
Today was their chance to rebuild trust. Earth stands with the Alliance in welcoming these 17 systems, Han said.
Our own history teaches us that peace requires courage, but the rewards.
The chamber lights flickered. Once, twice. The translation devices faltered mid-sentence.
Han paused, noticing security officers touching their communication devices with concerned expressions.
Something was wrong. Chancellor Pell sat 10 meters away on the raised dais, surrounded by council elders. The lizard-like diplomat's scales shimmered with ceremonial oils applied for the historic occasion. The lights failed completely for 3 seconds. When they returned, the security barriers that normally glowed with subtle force fields were dark. Disabled. Han's eyes caught movement, a figure in a dark cloak rising from the observer section, moving with unnatural speed toward the Chancellor. Sunlight glinted off metal as a weapon appeared in the figure's hand. Guards shouted, but they were positioned at the chamber entrances, too far away to reach the Chancellor in time. The council elders were all elderly diplomats, not fighters.
No one was close enough to help except Han. What happened next would be reviewed thousands of times in security footage.
Ambassador Han vaulted over the podium without using his hands.
His body moved with what observers would later call terrifying grace, a fluid efficiency no one expected from the supposedly non-threatening human.
Han crossed 20 meters of open floor in under 2 seconds.
He intercepted the assassin just 3 steps from Chancellor Pell.
No weapon. Just bare hands, calculated movements, perfect timing.
The attacker slashed with a curved blade. Han's arm blocked the strike, deflecting rather than stopping the momentum. His other hand grabbed the attacker's wrist, twisting. His foot swept behind the assassin's leg. The combination of movements sent the attacker crashing to the floor with Han on top, controlling the weapon hand.
The entire sequence took less than 5 seconds. Security guards swarmed in.
The chamber erupted in chaos, screaming, shouting, delegates rushing for exits.
Han remained calm, holding the struggling assassin until guards secured them.
"Are you injured, Ambassador?" a security officer asked, noticing blood on Han's sleeve where the blade had cut him.
Han shook his head. It's superficial. 3 hours later, the council reconvened in emergency session.
The attack had been contained, the perpetrator identified as a radical opposed to the unification. But that wasn't why they had gathered. On the main display screens, medical scans of Ambassador Han played in slow motion. Body sensors had recorded his physiological state during the incident. The data stunned the council scientists. "These readings cannot be accurate," insisted Representative Suk, the blue-skinned head of the science division. She pointed at the scrolling numbers. During the incident, the human's bone density temporarily increased by 17%. Muscle efficiency spiked to levels we see in evolved predator species. Brain chemistry altered dramatically.
Han sat quietly as they discussed him like a specimen.
We need an explanation, Chancellor Pell said, addressing Dr. J, who had been summoned to the session.
It's called adrenaline, Dr. J explained calmly.
A hormone produced naturally in the human adrenal gland. Part of our fight-or-flight response and evolutionary adaptation from our predator days on Earth.
The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. You mean to tell us, Chancellor Pell said slowly, that humans naturally produce combat enhancement compounds? Without technology or genetic modification?
Yes, Dr. J confirmed. In dangerous situations, human bodies automatically prepare for either fighting or escaping. Heart rate increases, blood flow redirects to muscles, reaction time improves, pain sensitivity decreases.
But the speed, Representative Suk interjected. Ambassador Han moved faster than should be physically possible for his muscle mass. Han finally spoke. What you saw was nothing special by human standards. Many humans could have done the same. Some could have done better. Chancellor Pell's tail twitched nervously. This explains why humans request exemption from the weapons protocol.
That's one way of looking at it, Han said quietly. We don't carry weapons in council because, in ways that matter, we are weapons. The chamber erupted again, this time in a storm of questions and concerns. Han caught Dr. J's eye across the room. Both knew that humanity's careful diplomatic facade had just shattered.
The galaxy now glimpsed the truth they had tried to conceal.
That beneath their peaceful appearance, humans remained the most efficient predators Earth had ever produced. The tension in the council station had grown unbearable during the 2 weeks following the assassination attempt. Species that had previously been friendly to humans now kept their distance.
Security details followed the human delegation everywhere.
Diplomatic meetings were postponed.
Ambassador Han received the official request during breakfast. They want what? Asked Min, one of the human security officers, reading over Han's shoulder. A demonstration, Han replied, setting down his cup. The juridical committee wants to see human capabilities firsthand.
They're treating us like lab specimens, Min said.
Han shook his head. They're treating us like an unknown military asset. Which, in a way, we are.
When the day arrived, Han led a small team to the Council's training facility, a massive chamber designed to test the capabilities of various species' security forces. The room could simulate different gravities, atmospheres, and environments. 5 humans had volunteered, Han himself, Min and Day from security, Dr. J, and Engineer Park. They wore simple exercise clothes rather than their usual uniforms. Above them, observation decks filled with representatives from 30 different species. Elder Mach, a being with crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns, stood at the announcer's position. The purpose of this demonstration is to establish factual understanding of human physiological capabilities, Elder Mach's voice echoed. This is not a trial, but a scientific observation. Dr. J stepped forward. Before we begin, I want to emphasize that humans vary greatly in our abilities. What you see today represents average capabilities, not exceptional ones. The test started simply. Strength measurements first. The council observers murmured as they watched Min lift a weight bar calibrated to 4 times her body mass when placed in a simulated danger scenario. The hormonal response creates temporary strength enhancement, Dr. J explained to the shocked audience. Mothers have lifted vehicles to save trapped children. Soldiers have carried injured comrades for miles. Next came endurance tests. Park ran continuously for 3 hours without rest, maintaining a steady pace that left the observers shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Han explained while Park ran. We can't outrun most prey animals in a sprint, but we can follow them until they collapse from exhaustion. The problem-solving tests revealed human adaptability. Day was placed in a maze with changing parameters, finding solutions faster than the Council's AI predicted possible. But what truly disturbed the observers came halfway through the demonstration. Dr. Jay stood in the center of the arena while medical monitoring devices displayed his vital signs on the large screens.
Pain management, he announced, is perhaps humanity's most misunderstood ability.
He removed a small device from his pocket and pressed it against his arm. A needle punctured his skin, not deeply, but enough to cause pain. The medical monitors showed his pain receptors firing. "Notice what happens next," Dr. J said calmly. The observers watched in fascination as the human doctor consciously controlled his response. The pain readings remained high, but his body's stress reactions diminished.
"We call this compartmentalization," he explained. "Humans can acknowledge pain while choosing not to respond to it. This allowed our ancestors to continue fighting or fleeing despite injuries."
One by one, the humans demonstrated abilities that seemed unremarkable to them but astonished the galactic community. Functioning without sleep for days, adapting quickly to different gravitational conditions, healing from minor wounds with surprising speed.
When the demonstration concluded, the 5 humans stood in a line facing the observation decks. Sweat dampened but composed.
"Now you understand," Han addressed the silent observers.
"Our ancestors didn't need ceremonial weapons because they evolved as persistence predators.
Our bodies were sufficient." A small blue diplomat with 4 arms leaned forward. "And this is all of your kind?" she asked, voice carrying tones the translator rendered as horror.
"To varying degrees," Han confirmed.
"We've spent our history learning to control these capabilities, to channel them constructively." The council chambers had never been so quiet.
Han could almost hear the calculations happening behind alien eyes, species re-evaluating their understanding of humanity, updating diplomatic protocols, reconsidering military assessments. "One question remains," Elder Mock finally broke the silence. "If humans possess these natural capabilities, why have you concealed them?" Han looked up at the hundreds of alien faces. "We didn't conceal them. We simply didn't showcase them.
On Earth, these traits don't make us special, they make us human.
We came to the Council seeking peaceful cooperation, not to inspire fear."
"Yet you are fearsome," stated a reptilian observer.
"Only when necessary," Han replied. "Like any thinking species, we prefer words to weapons.
The difference is, we had the luxury of making that choice long ago."
As they left the arena, Engineer Park whispered to Han, "Do you think we've ruined everything?"
Han watched the council representatives huddled in urgent discussion.
"No," he said. "I think we've finally started an honest conversation."
The great bell rang through the council station, signaling the start of the historic session. 1 standard year had passed since humans first arrived at the Galactic Council.
What began as suspicion had transformed into something unexpected. Ambassador Han adjusted his formal blue coat as he walked toward the council chambers with his team. Unlike the alien diplomats around them, they carried no weapons.
No ceremonial blades, no energy staffs, no poison quills. Just their hands at their sides and their minds alert.
"Nervous?" asked Diplomat Key, now recovered from her infamous weapon-touching incident. "Thoughtful," Han replied. "Today marks a turning point." The massive doors parted.
Inside, representatives from over 200 worlds filled the circular chamber. The ceiling displayed a real-time map of the galaxy, pinpoints of light marking member worlds.
Earth's light, a small blue dot in an outer spiral arm, pulsed gently. Chancellor Pell stood at the central platform, reptilian scales gleaming. "This council is called to order.
Today we vote on Proposal 7729, the formalization of what has been informally termed the human exception." On the main screens appeared the text of the proposal that had taken months to craft. Whereas human biochemistry renders traditional weapons protocols redundant, and whereas human neurological and physiological capabilities constitute sufficient defensive measure, the Council hereby establishes that representatives of Earth shall be exempt from Article 3 of the Diplomatic Weapons Code.
Furthermore, in recognition of their unique status, human representatives alone shall be required to enter council chambers unarmed. The vote proceeded quickly.
Green lights flashed across the chamber displays
unanimous approval. What had once been considered a diplomatic incident was now official policy.
Han felt a weight lift from his shoulders.
The path to this moment had not been easy.
After the demonstration of human capabilities, many species had pushed for restrictions on human movement within Council space. Others had demanded special monitoring protocols. It was young diplomat Key who had found the solution. During a heated debate 3 months earlier, she had stood before the Council and said simply, "You fear what we might do with weapons when our bodies already possess the capabilities you fear. Would you not feel safer knowing we come to you having deliberately set aside our capacity for violence?" That simple truth had shifted the entire conversation. Now, as ceremonial music marked the passage of the new protocol, Han accepted the formal certificate from Chancellor Pell.
"Ambassador Han," the Chancellor said, voice translated perfectly into human standard, "your species has taught the Council an unexpected lesson." "What lesson is that, Chancellor?" Han asked. "That true security comes not from displaying weapons, but from the wisdom to know when they are unnecessary." Later that day, Han stood with Ambassador Sung in the observation deck overlooking the departure bays. Below, a team of human peacekeepers prepared to board a transport. They would travel to the Mira system, where 3 species had requested human mediators for their territorial dispute. No other Council representatives had been acceptable to all parties. "The irony isn't lost on me," Han told Sung as they watched. "Our ancestors' capacity for violence has made us the perfect peacekeepers." Sung nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's the final test of any intelligent species, not developing better weapons, but knowing when to set them aside." "Do you think others will follow our example?" Han asked. "Eventually," Sung replied. "Some already speak of a day when ceremonial weapons might be abandoned by all Council members." Han smiled. That would be something to see. In the months that followed, humanity's role in galactic politics expanded rapidly. Human diplomats were requested for the most delicate negotiations. Human security consultants trained Council peacekeepers in hand-to-hand techniques. Human medical researchers shared their understanding of pain management and recovery. What had once marked humans as outsiders now defined their place in the galactic community. The sight of an unarmed human walking confidently through chambers filled with ceremonially armed aliens became powerful symbolism, living proof that civilization could triumph over instinct. One standard year later, at the anniversary ceremony, Chancellor Pell made a gesture unprecedented in Council history. Before the assembled representatives of 200 worlds, the Chancellor removed the ceremonial dagger that had been worn by Chancellors for 6,000 cycles and placed it in a display case. "Today, I follow humanity's example," the Chancellor announced. "Not because I must, but because I choose to demonstrate that leadership requires wisdom more than weapons." As applause filled the chamber, Han exchanged glances with his team. None of them had imagined, when they first faced the Council's weapons protocol, that their exception would become a new standard. That humanity's greatest strength would prove to be not the weapon they were born with, but the choice to keep it sheathed. The end.